2025. And we do have a quorum here, so let's look at the minutes. Representative Lawrence, have you had a chance to review the minutes by chance? Put you on the spot here.
Madam Chair, I appreciate being put on the spot, but I'm going to be honest. I have not reviewed the minutes as of yet, so I'd
Okay.
defer to another colleague.
I'm gonna turn to our resident expert here, Representative Jordan. Have you had a chance?
Madam Chair, I have examined the minutes and they do appear to be in order, so I would move their approval.
Thank you very much, Representative Jordan. You've moved the minutes for Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, the minutes have been approved for Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. So we have the first bill up here. That would be House File 15. Representative Engen, welcome to the committee. And the chair moves that House File 15 be re-referred to the Committee on Public Safety, Finance, and Policy. Representative Engen has an author's amendment to clarify that schools receiving a SHIELD grant would include their modifications in their facility plans, and other schools may include a safe schools plan in their facilities planning. And we can defer to nonpartisan staff if anyone has specific questions after we adopt the amendment. So the chair moves the adoption of the A1 amendment. All in favor say aye. And opposed, nay. The motion prevails and the A1 amendment is adopted. Representative Engen, please present House File 15 as amended, and after your remarks, we will go to the testifiers.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Before we get into the substance of the bill, I first want to start out by kind of sharing a little bit of background as to how I got involved in wanting to pursue school safety-based legislation in the first place. And I'm going to take you way back. I'm going to date myself here. It was actually 8th grade. And it was 2012, December 14th, when in the middle of our first period class, we got interrupted by the teacher who sounded extremely stern when she said, "Everybody be quiet. Oh my God, it's happened again." And she turned on the TV and we saw the news of a school shooting in Connecticut. And this was, of course, Sandy Hook. And I didn't quite understand what was going on. I didn't quite comprehend just the severity or even the extent to which evil would try to do that to vulnerable people simply for the sake of being evil. And it was the first time that I really had to kind of explore my own mortality and recognize that here in school, a place that I believe to be safe, it isn't. So fast forward, and here we are with this bill because that stuck with me. So before I go into the specific details of the policy here, I want to talk about what this bill isn't. This bill is not a bill about guns. I think that we have a tendency to revert back to that discussion when engaging in a dialogue surrounding school safety. And I don't really care if you're a card-carrying NRA member or if you are the most staunch and fervent believer in gun control. I think we can all come to a consensus and agree that this is the right approach to take, giving schools the resources that they need to provide that shield for students, teachers, and staff if the worst case scenario were to ever occur, God forbid. This bill isn't about hardening schools. I think we've heard that a lot as well. People have a tendency to just assume that we're trying to create a prison environment out of a school, and none of us want that. These installments are completely naked to the human eye until they're deployed, in which case they're helping save lives. And this bill isn't about stripping or rediverting resources away from the mental health proactive measures that, those resources are already tough to come by. We don't want to take away from those funds. We want to beef up our comprehensive school safety approach by allowing there to be a new funding mechanism for schools to provide that innovative, tangible security. So overall, this is just simply a bill that puts students, teachers, and staff first, providing them with resources to have cover, concealment, and communication in those dire circumstances. And I'm going to turn it over to my testifiers because they're going to give you guys, I think, a real tangible, a really thought-provoking, comprehensive overview of the bill before we go into any of the policy questions. But I appreciate the time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Engen. And members, you should have in your folders testifier materials for House File 15. And I invite you to review those while we hear from our testifiers. To the testifiers, I will call you up 2 at a time. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record and any organization you might represent. Also, please keep your comments to 2 minutes. We will have a 30-second, if you keep an eye, glance up every once in a while, if you hold up the 30-second warning kind of, and then there'll be the time, because we do want to keep moving here. We want to hear the testifiers and appreciate that, and then also have some member discussion. So we're going to start, I'll call testifiers up 2 at a time. We'll start with Jason Polinsky and Christine Hogan, or Haugen. If they could come up to the table, and then I'm going to kind of call on deck will be Joel Koski and Jim Galich, and I apologize if I am butchering your names. So we will start with Jason Polinsky. Please introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Hi, my name is Jason Polinsky. I'll just kind of, is that good? Just dive into it now. I have over 29 years of diversified law enforcement experience, including a 10 years as a school resource officer in the Lakeville Public School District. Throughout my career, I've dedicated myself to enhancing the safety and security of our educational environments, recognizing that our children deserve to learn in a space where their well-being is prioritized. I was awarded the Medal of Merit as well as the Friend of Education Award for the work I put into active shooter response and keeping our kids safe. With my experience as an SRO and supervisor of the SRO program, I have investigated and overseen over 55 threats of violence to public schools since 2002. I've also trained first responders and school employees in crucial topics such as active shooter responses, bomb threats, and lockdown drills for nearly 2 decades. This training is vital, but just one piece of a much larger puzzle. While the current protocols like Run, Hide, Fight offer some guidance, my research and practical experience has shown that these plans are inherently flawed when applied to the realities of many modern school buildings. I wrote my master's thesis on this subject, which highlighted the glaring inadequacies of this approach. Many schools are not built with the structural considerations that would allow students and staff to implement these strategies in a crisis. This brings me to the urgency of House File 15. This legislation is a game changer for Minnesota schools as it aims to redefine the standards for school safety. It is the only holistic and comprehensive system available to create an effective change to keep our teachers and students safe. It is the only system that provides the tools for the teachers and the kids to take their school back. It is the only system that packages the before, being prevention, the during and active, and the aftermath of a situation. It is only language that enhances response for the stakeholders and eliminate a target-rich environment in seconds. HF 15 furthermore is a game changer for police response and on arrival by providing responding officers valuable tools to interact with a threat in minutes faster than without. With the patches of HF 15, we can move past the outdated Run, Hide, Fight framework that unfortunately leaves our students vulnerable. It's time to embrace a more comprehensive approach. I can finish real quick. One of the leading causes of death and injury in the 1900s was school fires. After Our Lady of Angels school fire, 95 children and teachers lost their lives. After that fire, the fire code was enforced. Since that fire, not one child has lost their life in the school. So you have to look at what is a fire suppression system. It's a multi-layered comprehensive system that gets the fire department there faster, puts out and contains the fire, and alerts the entire building. We need a paradigm shift on how we're approaching this. The blueprint is there, and we need to be comprehensive and multi-layered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we have Christine Hogan.
Haugen.
Haugen,
Yes.
all right. If you'd
Let's
please
see.
introduce yourself. and
Hello.
begin.
Okay. Hello, my name is Christine Haugen, and my approach is a little bit more simple. I am an office manager at a K-8 school here in the local area. One of my roles is to oversee visitor management and workplace security. I am here to express my strong support for the SHIELD Act, which expands funding critical school safety improvements. Managing visitor access has shown me firsthand the importance of strong security measures. These layers of security, schools need controlled entry points, surveillance systems, emergency communication tools, and lockdown infrastructure to protect students and staff. These layers of security throughout the entire building allow for quick response times in a crisis, ensuring that staff doesn't have to stop and think, they can act immediately. Most importantly, these measures provide peace of mind for students, staff, and our parents. A safe school is one where learning can thrive without fear. Schools shouldn't have to choose between maintaining their building and ensuring safety. The SHIELD Act gives them the resources to do both. I urge the committee to support this bill and help create safer schools for all. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Joel Koski and Jill. I'm going to let Jill Galach. Okay, thank you. And then on deck, we have Michelle, and I'm going to let you pronounce your last name, Michelle, when you come up, and Brett. So we'll start with Joel when he comes up.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Joel Koski. I'm also a K-8 administrator. I'm a principal at a local school here in Lakeville. Good to be co-workers with Christine, who you just heard from. She's our office manager. We've been fortunate enough to be blessed to have a system like the one that's mentioned in this bill for the past 5 years. And I want to express again my strong support for this act as well. The teachers in our schools bear a great responsibility for the students in their classrooms. They're not trained to take on their responsibility, but in the times of need, they must act, and it's a huge part of their job come time of some sort of event. Security is important to be integrated into a school safety plan, long-term and short-term. Schools need structured and proactive solutions. Often we find ourselves reacting in our roles at schools, and especially being a principal. My job can be very reactive, but this is one area where I'm thankful to have a proactive response to, and teachers trained to know what to do. Many schools often lack the financial resources to implement the security measures that are in place at our school. I've been able to see firsthand how important the system that we have is to our schools, and implementing that multi-layered security system has given confidence to our families. Every school deserves the safety that we have, and I've been fortunate to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, and go ahead and proceed. Introduce yourself for the record.
Chairperson Bennett and members of the committee. My name is Jim Galach, and I'm an associate principal at Chisago Lakes Middle School, an independent school, District 2144. I've been an educator for 35 years, of which the 10 last years have been an assistant principal. Chisago Lakes District is located about 38 minutes north of here, and we serve 3,218 students in our K-12 buildings. 728 of them attend the building where I work, our middle school. Our middle school was built in 1935 with subsequent additions coming with safety challenges due to the age and the original design of our building. While we have a comprehensive plan known as the I Love You Guys, or the Standard Response Protocol, developed in collaboration with our local environment, our school law enforcement environment, the physical structure of our building compromises its effectiveness and poses unique challenges maintaining safety for our school and our staff and our district. Our main entryway has 27-foot width, and 24 feet of that is glass. It's intended to an intended check-in point, which you see in pictures in front of you, can be easily bypassed, and access to 2 gymnasiums and a cafeteria rather easily. Furthermore, the third floor houses 9 classrooms, with 8 of those classrooms having no doors at all, including just curtains. Again, some of the things that the SHIELD Act would provide is bullet-resistant doors and windows. These are essential for creating environments that are safe for our kids, ballistic wall panels, magnetic locking systems, and classroom duress alarms and mass notification systems, which would be essential again for the safety of our folks. The SHIELD Act represents a significant opportunity to create safer learning environments for all of our kids. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Michelle Frauenschuh and Brett Domstrand. And then waiting in the wings here, we'll have Leah Jones and Michael Bauman. And we'll start with Michelle. Please introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Beautiful pronunciation, Chairperson Bennett.
I had some help over here to my right, so.
Chairperson Bennett and committee members, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Michelle Frauenschuh. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and owner of Life Development Resources, a trauma specialty clinic with 60-plus therapists in the metro area. I've been in practice since 1999. It's been a minute. Specializing in high-risk youth and families for my entire career, I have worked in the forensic and residential settings in private practice. I'm a member of the Association of Threat Assessment Professionals and a certified CSTAG trainer. CSTAG is the evidence-based professional judgment tool most often used to assess risk for concerning student behaviors. I'm here to support HF 15 as an important bill to enhance school safety and provide additional support for staff and students should violence occur. As a professional who has treated many individuals who were on the pathway to violence, a layer of physical safety measures would provide me with a sense of comfort as I work with the client to reduce risk. I am fully aware that I cannot predict a violent act through my work, but I can identify concerning behaviors and support the client in making those changes. I am passionate about our state's commitment to children's mental health, particularly school-linked behavioral health and school district threat assessment teams. As a clinical supervisor, I hear every day the positive impact mental health access in the schools has on children's lives. And sometimes, even with a competent mental health prevention team, violent incidents do occur. As a behavioral threat assessment professional, I'm also deeply aware of our physical vulnerabilities within schools when preventative intervention strategies have not been sufficient. To complement the excellent work our mental health teams do in our school districts, I believe we need additional safety measures as outlined in HF 15. These additional safety measures need to be designed by and trained by organizations who have the tactical and strategic lens that only comes from individuals who have a background in law enforcement or military. In my mind, the goal is to keep the vulnerable safe at school by creating a secure environment. Should an act of violence occur, structural safety measures can insulate the person engaging in an act of violence in their moment of crisis so that we can minimize damage to themselves and others.
Please wrap up quickly if you could.
Policymakers, mental health providers, administrators, teachers, parents, and physical security consultants are all layers of support needed to keep our kids safe. And this comprehensive system would make a profound difference. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Brett Domstrand.
Brett Domstrand.
Domstrand, okay, thank you. Go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Chair Bennett and committee members. My name is Brett Domstrand, and I'm the proud principal of Lake Marion Elementary in Lakeville. I want to just talk about something that weighs heavily on every educator's mind, which is school safety. Recently, our school underwent a significant security upgrade. We added cameras, magnetic door locks, and reinforced security walls within our classrooms designed to protect our students in the event of a school threat. Because of these improvements, we can now move over 700 students into safe places in less than 60 seconds. We do that in our drills. So the relief I feel knowing that we can secure our building so quickly is indescribable. In the past, our lockdown drills consisted of either hiding or running, and practices that left us with more questions than answers. And as you can imagine, the stress as a teacher or a principal feels when thinking about how students might react in a real crisis. Will they run? Will they freeze? What happens if students do both? Who does a teacher follow? These are the harsh realities we face when considering school safety. But today, thanks to improved procedures and reinforcements, we have measures in place that buy us the critical time we need until help arrives. These changes don't just provide security, they provide peace of mind. When combined with our positive behavior systems and mental health supports, we can create a great learning environment for all. As someone who has experienced the difference firsthand, I urge you to support the safety of our schools. Our students deserve a place where they can learn and grow without fear, and let's work together to make that a reality. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Leah Jones and Michael Bauman, and then up ready to go would be Judy Kelleher and Lauren Belz. So start with Leah Jones, if you introduce yourself for the record and begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Leah Jones, and I am the Executive Director of Life Prep School in St. Paul. We are just 7 short minutes away from the Capitol building, and we serve pre-K through 6th grade. I have been at Life Prep for 19 years, first as a teacher and now for the last 8 years as director. The location of my school poses a large number of safety concerns. We have seen a huge increase in criminal activity right outside our building, often on school grounds. I have also seen an increase in student behavior that is also a threat to our safety. On one occasion, it was necessary for me to close school in order to completely address the situation. I had always known that my school was nowhere near equipped to handle today's safety issues, but it wasn't until the day we closed that I was so cruelly slapped in the face with the reality of what education is like today. You see, the reality is that I and my staff are all my students have when it comes to protection. The reality is my morning starts off like most, but when I get ready in the morning, I have to consider my wardrobe options a bit more carefully. You see, I need at least 3 pockets. 1 for my pepper spray, 1 for my work cell, and the other is my personal cell. My work cell is for calling 911 if I am in a violent situation, and my personal cell is to call my husband while I wait for help. I need to carefully consider my footwear. Tennis shoes are my best choice. If I have to run, I have to be fast. I can't slip because every second counts, and I know that I am most likely to die while fumbling with my keys while trying to unlock a door. Funding has been my biggest challenge. My students need safe spaces in the event of extreme violence. The multiple layers of protection presented here in this bill provide the protective layers that I need for my school. Today, you have the ability to make this all possible with your support of the SHIELD Act. You have the ability to help us make our schools safer for everyone. Today, I ask you to be part of the solution and make school safety a top priority in Minnesota.
Okay, next we have Michael Bauman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Michael Bauman. I am superintendent for Lakeville Area Schools. I came to be a superintendent from a very unconventional path. I spent 20 years on active duty in military and a combat veteran. As I became into the public school system, you know that school superintendents, we face many complex challenges in ensuring that our schools are safe and secure. And in the contemporary operating environment we're in today, you know about the many situations that occur. And despite support systems for mental health, for behavior, and for providing counseling and many other professional assistance, physical security is quite lacking in public school systems. There is no uniform standard for physical security in our schools, and Minnesota can do better. One of my greatest concerns as a superintendent, although there are many, one for sure is school safety, because a safe learning environment creates the conditions for learning that are necessary. The potential loss of life from an active shooter event is a concern for any superintendent, and you can ask them all. As a superintendent, I've often been in places where the question comes out to us, what keeps you awake at night? And superintendents say things like resource shortages, or they might say that they have concerns with public relations and those kinds of things. And those are legitimate. When I'm asked, I say loss of life of students or staff from an active shooter incident. That's what keeps me awake at night. And I say that because I've been there as a battalion commander in a combat environment. I know what it is to protect your soldiers and worry about them. Same thing with students and staff. And an active shooting event is a forever event. And so I have concerns when you think about Uvalde or Parkland, Florida, which are some of the more noted ones. What happens is people go through the districts and with fine-tooth combs, and they find out what all the failures are. And they are security failures, and mostly physical security failures, as well as leadership failures. Financial consequences of reactive measures versus proactive protection systems argue strongly against making that the reason to avoid implementation costs for HF-15. I strongly advocate for true protection. The current conventional security measures, they do not protect. Cameras, access control, run, hide, fight, insufficient. This bill calls for a simplified
wrap it up quickly,
multi-layered
please?
protection. I'll wrap up by saying,
Thank you.
I please support this opportunity for Minnesota and for our superintendents.
Very much. Judy Kelleher is next, and Lauren Bells. And then last up, we have a remote testifier, Rick Kaufman. So we'll start with Judy Kelleher. Whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Bennett and committee members. I am Judy Kelleher, and as an elected Lakeville Area School Board member for the past 28 years, finishing my final term at the end of 2024, the safety of our students and staff has always been a top priority. A safe school is essential for successful learning environment, and as an employer, keeping a safe work environment for our staff was also important. School boards are responsible for creating safe environments for students and staff by setting policies, allocating resources, providing oversight, and advocating for public education needs. Policies and resource allocation must include prevention, crisis intervention, and mental health support, in addition to emergency preparedness and physical security updates to the facilities. Oversight includes establishing and monitoring safety metrics, along with engaging our students, staff, families, law enforcement, and mental health specialists to stay informed on concerns. And it's critical that we ensure that our policies are effective and that they're being kept current. Advocating for school safety and security for our public schools is something all families, all districts, and all communities want and need. No district, no community, and no state wants to deal with the aftermath of active threats within any of our schools. The SHIELD Act is the multi-layered system that we have implemented in our Lakeville area schools, and it's a proactive, student-centered approach to school security. Its focus on prevention and addressing the mental health needs of our students is as important as the physical building upgrades. Keeping the school buildings welcoming and looking like a school was important for our students and our families. Our school buildings look no different today than they did before the system was installed. The students only see a blue button on the wall and a box on the ceiling. With this system, such as fire drills and tornado drills, constant training is also required when there's an active threat to make sure the right steps are taken to ensure the best possible outcome. With this multi-layered system installed across the entire district, if asked, did you do all you can to protect your students and staff? I can say that I did.
And Lauren Bells.
Good afternoon, Chair Bennett and members. Thank you for allowing me to speak today on behalf of the SHIELD Act. My name is Lauren Bells, and I'm a junior at White Bear Lake Area High School. As a high schooler, it is well known that most students do not feel safe at school, myself included. As a student, I believe that it is of the utmost importance that students feel safe in their schools, which is why I support this act. On a personal level, I've experienced countless lockdowns, both drills and real. Just this past year, as I was getting ready to go to school, I got a text message from a friend saying the school had gone to a lockdown. My friend was extremely upset because she'd been studying in a classroom alone, and she had little space where she could hide from sight and didn't have a teacher to go to for help. If my friend was able to access tools that could call for help and have a classroom built to protect her and other students, the situation would have looked much different. This, among countless other examples, is the reason why schools need the funding to create safer environments. Having a building equipped with features to keep my peers and I safe is extremely important to me, which is why I support this act. Thank you for your time today, and I'm asking that you please join me and my peers in supporting the SHIELD Act.
Okay, and last up, we have Rick Kaufman. Rick is remote, so we'll get him up here. Okay, Rick Kaufman, can you hear us okay?
And thank you, Madam Chair,
There we go.
members of the committee, the opportunity to testify today. My name is Rick Kaufman, and for the past 18 years, I've served as the Executive Director of Community Relations and Emergency Management for Bloomington Public Schools. This after public school stints in Wisconsin and Colorado. I apologize, I'm less than 24 hours removed from cancer surgery on my throat. I've dedicated the past 23 or 32 years working in school safety, emergency management, and crisis response. Following the tragic shooting at Columbine High School, on April 20th, 1999. I was among the first to arrive on site to offer triage and rescue of students and staff. In the aftermath, I was entrusted with co-leading the Columbine Crisis Response Team, guiding recovery efforts for our community, for the school, and for our staff and students. In the years since, I have been called upon with boots on the ground to assist schools that have faced these most unimaginable tragedies, including Sandy Hook Elementary School, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and Uvalde Public Schools. I made a promise after Columbine to the victims' families to dedicate my career to improving school safety and security, a commitment that I've upheld by working with hundreds of school districts across this country, school safety centers and emergency management agencies and professionals nationwide or respond to and recover from all forms of school violence. My experience has given me firsthand insight into what truly works in preventing school violence. And I am here today to testify in opposition to House File 15, the SHIELD Act. While I appreciate the intent behind enhancing school safety, I have serious concerns this bill overemphasizes physical security measures at the expense of proven prevention strategies. School security is not the one-size-fits-all solution of target hardening and physical security hardware. These alone do not stop school shootings, as no amount of bullet-resistant doors or access controls will prevent a motivated attacker, a vast majority of which are current and former students familiar with the layout, security measures, and entry points of their schools. I have the data and research and documentation that I have provided in a full testimony to this committee. Let me summarize these last 3 points. We need a balanced approach to school safety. This bill assumes security as a one-size-fits-all solution of target hardening and physical security hardware. School safety cannot be solved by locks and doors alone. It must start with people and products with a focus on intervention and prevention. This bill prioritizes security of the industry profits over real solutions that can prevent violence rather than react it to. We owe it to our students, our teachers, our families, and our communities to invest in proven research-driven strategies and not spend millions on security theater that looks good but does little to stop school shootings. I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman, and thank you for coming so quickly after your surgery. We wish you a speedy recovery. So members, that concludes our list of testifiers, and public testimony is now closed. Thank you to each of the testifiers. Members, do we have any discussion? Representative Green.
Thank you so much, Chair. And thank you, Representative Engen, for bringing this bill forward. I have a couple questions. One, first of all, I want to thank you for this conversation. I think school safety is on the front minds of all of our students and our teachers, especially everyone here who testified today. It is something that, as a school board member, we talked about quite a bit. So I have a couple questions. One is charter schools. So charter schools can't own their own buildings. And so in here, they don't have to have a 10-year facility plan because it doesn't necessarily equate to them owning the buildings. And so my question is, they are, though, allowed to get these grants. So I didn't know if you had talked to the charter school groups to see if the things that are listed are things that could be put into a building that they're renting. So I didn't know if there was some flexibility there that you had considered.
Representative Engen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question. I actually have consulted with multiple charter schools, and they believe that this can be installed and it can also be withdrawn from that site. Plus, I just believe that we should be protecting every student in every school, regardless of public, charter, private, whatever it might be. But in this particular instance, charter schools, they do believe that they would have the appropriate oversight to have their facilities maintenance plan, take care of this equipment, and withdraw it if need be.
Great.
Representative Green, follow up?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm a big fan of charter schools. And so I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't too much control in terms of what they would do because they are looking at a different type of building. So
course.
thank you. I appreciate you speaking with them and talking about them. And then my second question is, you know, as a board member, we would get, we would have a public safe school plan that was open to the public. And, you know, people could make comments on it and it was posted in our open meetings. And then we would have a closed session to hear the plans and things that we had in place to protect our kids. And it's in statute 108.5, I think, that talks about that. And I can share that with the group. So the only thing that I pause a little bit in terms of how we communicate after this. I'm in support of this bill, by the way. But I think when you talk about doing reports and the report out and even the application process for getting the grants, I would just, actually, this is more of a comment, unless you have done that already, but I think it'd behoove us to look at what is kept private and why it's kept private. You know, I know that part of that is the actual safety. You know, there's different safety measures in Edina Public Schools that the public does not know about because we can't, because it puts the kids more at risk. And so I would just encourage that conversation just to make sure that in that application process, we are not inadvertently exposing more than we need to.
Representative Engen, did you want to comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your comments. I would be more than happy to work with you offline too. I want to get this right and I want this to be a green board at the end of the day. So we should definitely continue this discussion. One of the things that I would say to the point of not wanting to alert a potential individual who could cause that threat of these installments, this would be a deterrent overall. There'd be a disincentive to target a school that has these upgrades, correct? And so I don't know if this is something that I could maybe refer to a testifier from, but I would believe that schools who have this installed have seen a lesser extent to some of those threats.
Representative Green.
Yes, just a quick follow-up, Chair. Thank you. Yeah, no, I agree. I just know that there are things in place in school districts that you don't want in the public, and no matter what. And I do think it is a deterrent. I think it's part of a larger solution, comprehensive approach to this, which I appreciated your opening and talking about that. So thank you. I'm happy to work with you.
Any other members before I go to Lee Jordan? Oh, there we go. Representative Keeler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative, for the bill. I have a couple questions, but first I feel like I keep saying I've done everything but be a teacher in the school district. I was also part of our BERT team, which is the Building Emergency Response Team, because I was a front desk administrator. I was the one that got trained to ignite to the rest of my school that there was trouble at the front door. We didn't have panic buttons. We didn't have fireproof glass. Like, it was terrifying to do a basic job. And so my first question, because we had this conversation within our own caucus, is that there's this assumption, I think it's an assumption, that every school has secure entrances. Do you know, like, what percent or where we are with just our Minnesota schools on how many of our schools don't even have secure entrances?
Representative Engen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question. I believe it's so variable that it's completely untenable to even try to track that. And one of the things that we want to allow for in this bill, because of that and the variability in each building, is a specific guideline as to how to install these and retrofit it to the needs of that particular school site. And so because of that, yeah, we do need to improve our overall just sense of understanding as to how we even build a school with those thoughts in mind. But this takes that into account as well, some of those variables.
Representative Keeler.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. I'm going to have a couple more questions too. So, I mean, I think the answer is no, not all schools in Minnesota have secure entrances. And so kind of going back to the hat that I used to wear, back to all of my friends who are still at the front desk of schools, I lean into this bill and support it because I do believe that we have to support the workers that are designated to support our kids. I do want to ask, I want to shift into kind of just the grant process itself, because I am a firm believer that Minnesota money should stay in Minnesota. And so I didn't see, and tell me if I'm just not reading it right, I sort of thought maybe it would be, where did I see where it said the vendor must be able to prove that they, oh, right here, line 2.22, that the vendor must be able to prove for at least 2 years, that they have experience. Is there any appetite for making these Minnesota grants useful for Minnesota vendors? Because what I don't want to happen is that we do Minnesota taxpayers to solve a Minnesota issue, and now we're like buying all of our stuff from vendors that are elsewhere when we have them right here in our own state.
Representative Engen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 100%. I couldn't agree more. In fact, we wanted to make sure that this didn't inadvertently leave anybody out. But I could see a scenario in which there are folks now claiming to provide these services that actually don't and don't have the expertise in it. I think that a Minnesota-based vendor eligibility amendment would be an awesome one.
Representative Keeler.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Thank you for that, because I've been looking into it. Being a border city, there's a lot of commerce laws that we have to work around. But I really think when we do things like this, we all take pride in what we do here in Minnesota. And so I know this is moving to another stop, would be, I don't sit at that table, but would really enjoy and welcome an opportunity to look at amendments, at least as a priority that our money in Minnesota is staying with Minnesota businesses. I think that would be valid. So I would suggest that we follow up and work on that. And then, did you want to say anything in response to that?
Representative Engen.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. You can count on my word that amendment will be prepared for the next committee stop, which I believe is public safety.
Yeah.
Representative Keeler.
Yep, sure. And then the one thing I want to say, it's not to this bill, but it's to the topic. And we've talked about it. And I think that it is important to recognize. I know that we've talked about mass shootings in other places, but in March, we will be coming up on the 20-year anniversary of the shooting in Red Lake. And I think that we just have to name that. And I would like, Madam Chair, for us to just take a moment of silence in this committee, because we are talking about something that is really meaningful, and it is a generational impact. And I think that what you're doing here to protect kids is important. I think it's not just protecting the kids that are in the building, it's the generations after that, after you've gone through a traumatic space. Leaning into the attendance conversation we have had and spent a robust time, I think it's really important that our kids continue to feel safe. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me take the time to honor the individuals from Red Lake as well.
Thank you, members. Let's stand and if the audience would like to stand as well, we'll just take a moment to honor anybody, Red Lake and so on, who've been impacted by these tragic events. Thank you. Representative Keeler, did you have anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
Thank you. Representative Hill.
Thank you, Chair Bennett, and thank you, Representative, for bringing this bill. It's an important topic. It's one that you and I started with an initial topic on, I think, more than a year ago, and so I really appreciate you bringing the bill. I have a couple of really quick questions. I do want to offer a note that I am in support of the bill and look forward to following it through public safety and following it along on its journey. I want to start on line 2.31, where you start the list of qualifying expenditures under the SHIELD Act here. And I'm wondering, and this has been influenced by our final speaker, Mr. Kaufman, who really had an emphasis in his words around the strategic deployment of some of these items along with training and different elements to support the school community. And so my question would be, is there an order of operations, or is there a different tier level that you can look at some of these items that, you know, for example, a controlled main access point, I would think would be a very baseline necessity for our schools to have. I can remember in the district where I operate, it's been now 15 years, we're over a 3-year experience. They divided the schools into 3 groups, and each summer they added a vestibule and, you know, the intercom and the equipment there to have a controlled access point for each of our schools, and that's now intact. What I learned from conversation with Representative Keeler and others is that this isn't universal. This is not happening in every one of our schools across Minnesota. And so I'm wondering if there's kind of an order of operations that could be included here to making sure that some of those basic level security options are in place before we move to more sophisticated.
Representative Engen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Hill, for that. 100%. I think that that's something that we should definitely look into. And again, I want to work with you guys offline about this. Not every school is the same. For example, we had a testifier from Chisago who is talking about how many of their classroom doors aren't actually doors, they're shower curtains. They would have an order of operations that probably started with a new door, for example. But yeah, we should look into potentially having there be an assessment as to what schools should prioritize with that list as well. And going back to our testifier, which first I'd like to thank him and just recognize his passion in this space, to be here 24 hours after a cancer surgery. It's pretty incredible. But we also want to make sure that with these security installments, it's also going to open up funding from Safe Schools levy dollars towards more of the mental health prevention side of things. And so this could work in concert with those other tools, not butt heads with. So thank you.
Representative Hill.
Thank you, Chair Bennett. And just another follow-up. And this goes to the comments that Ms. Kelleher brought with her in her experience set. The safety of our students is paramount. But her comments around not just our physical safety of our students, but our psychological safety of our students, and ensuring that these measures, should we deploy them in schools, are undetectable to our students. It's just something that's there in place, ready to offer protection. And so I would offer an emphasis on that line of thinking as well. But really, thank you for the bill, and look forward to following its journey.
Representative Engen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Hill. Yeah, I want students to first have the opportunity to turn to a counselor in times of crisis, rather than not have those opportunities and turn to violence. That really is the first line of defense. This is the last line of defense, and without it, I think that we're leaving students and staff and teachers vulnerable. But you're 100% correct in saying that this is about an all of the above approach. This is about total wellness, not just physical, but also emotional and mental.
Representative Hill?
Yes, and thank you, Chair Bennett. And just a final follow-up, it's a yes and.
Yes.
Representative Ingen, I'm going to support the bill, but I do want to take this opportunity to point out that Minnesota falls well short of where we need to be when it comes to our students to counselor ratio. And so I'm with you and look forward to following this bill as on its way.
Representative Bierman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Engen, for the bill. Appreciated the information, and yeah, it's interesting to go into different schools around the state and see that different level at the front door especially. But we heard a lot from folks from Lakeville today, and would you know, or would you say that they're sort of the most advanced in developing this SHIELD Act?
Representative Engen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Bierman. So in 2014, I believe they actually had a referendum. They asked their taxpayers if they wanted this in their schools, and overwhelmingly they supported it. I believe it was actually a record percentage vote for the yes in terms of voting in favor of that referendum. And with that, they have made these installments. They've made a lot of the improvements that we seek to spread to other corners of the state here in Minnesota. And so when walking through that back in December of 2023 and taking a look at all of these and saying, oh my gosh, this needs to go nationwide, we wanted to first allow the resources to go to other school districts who really just don't have the funds to put this into place like Lakeville does. And that's why we kind of modeled it up after their approach.
Representative Bierman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Another question then. Just wondering if you know, or if we maybe called some of the Lakeville folks back up, of just trying to get a sense of, there's a lot of schools in Lakeville. And so how many of them have had this reinforcement to your knowledge? And what's the level of build out? Is it one particular school or is it multiple? Thank you.
Representative Engen, looks like you have a testifier, so please introduce yourself for the record.
Jason Polinsky. To answer your question, all Lakeville schools have the complete system. So all 15 schools, I believe, 16 schools have the complete system in their schools.
Madam Chair.
Representative Bierman?
15 schools, so the high schools and the middle schools and the elementary schools. And would the complete system entail those 13 items from line 2.3 to 3.13? All of those are in?
Yes.
And done and complete?
And some on top of that.
Madam Chair.
Representative
So is that, was that one referendum enough to do all of this work?
Yes.
Go ahead.
It was.
Yep.
Madam Chair,
Representative Bierman?
can I ask what the total cost was?
This was 2020 numbers was, I think, 15.5, 15 million.
15 million for all 15 schools, so about $1 million a school.
Yeah,
Representative Bierman?
15 million for 15 schools.
That's helpful. Thank you. I appreciate you coming back up and talking about that and putting some idea of numbers in our head. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Jordan, or Lead Jordan.
Sydney's fine. Yeah, I have a question first for nonpartisan staff. And thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to confirm, I think I know the answer to this, but intermediate school districts are also under, as this is currently written, our intermediate school districts are also eligible for these grants, correct?
Would like to take Mr. Strom or Ms. Para? Mr. Strom?
Apologies. Chair Bennett, Representative Jordan, the language right now says district or charter school. It'd be easy enough to include specifically the kinds of cooperative units, which include intermediate school districts and other special ed and education districts.
Lead Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Representative Engen, would you, I really hope the answer is yes. Would you be open to preparing an amendment in public safety to include our intermediate and cooperatives that also
Represent-
support public schools?
Yes.
Representative Engen. Okay. Lee Jordan,
Thank you.
follow up?
Yep, thank you for that. So, great. I hope to see that in public safety. That's should be a friendly amendment. If you need help drafting that, let me know or let anyone else know. My other question is regards to line 2.30 in the bill, and maybe that'll change when it's engrossed. But it does say that the vendor is the one that is determining what should be installed. And my question is, and I think, why is it the vendor? Vendor implies that someone is selling something. So I guess I have concerns about letting vendors make decisions about school purchasing, and like a vendor might have some sort of like expertise, but I think it should really be up to school districts about what they need. And I have a lot of concerns about opening up what the vendor determines what should be sold and purchased for versus other entities. Can you talk to me a little bit about why you drafted that line that way, and any other changes that you might be anticipating in that amendment in public safety?
Representative Engen.
No, thank you so much for catching that. Actually, I knew that there are some vendors who do some of those assessments to see which of these listed items would be best to install within a school. And they kind of provide that guidance and support, but we don't want vendors picking and choosing which items are going to be installed, especially because there's an inherent, conflict there. So yeah, let's draft an amendment for that too. This is one of the most constructive overall. Yeah, this is great committee. I really appreciate it, you guys. Thank you.
Lots of good minds here. Lee Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so I'm glad we can work on this. Please let me know. I do think school safety is important. It's something that has really impacted my life in particular. And it's something that's very important to me. So I do hope so please feel free to use us to talk about, I think everyone agrees that we need to make sure schools are safe for students. Above all, that's, you can't learn if you're not safe. You just can't. And I really do also want to augment what Representative Hill said, that Minnesota has one of the worst student to school counselor ratios and school mental health support ratios in the country. So we as a committee, need to work on that. All students should have access to that. It's a lot more effective than trying to hold up a bulletproof shield, I think. I wonder about my ability to hold up a literal shield like that. So making sure that we're working on this, and we are talking about this is a yes and approach, to just really echo what Representative Hill said. Schools should be welcoming, they should be safe. And so making sure that we have both that, approaching things like reporting and making sure that we have those student mental health supports. It all needs to be part of that package. So thank you for this bill. Please let me know how we can be helpful in addressing other amendments as it goes along the way.
Okay. Hey, Representative, I'll let you have the last word here, but I want to thank members for the great discussion. Sounds like you've got a lot of good ideas to take away. Representative Engen, would you like to wrap it up and close your bill?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the committee members. This was very constructive, and however many times I've looked at this bill, you can always look at it again, and I really appreciate your input. Expect to see those amendments in the next stop in public safety, and we want to make sure we're not forcing kids to hold up a shield. That'd be ridiculous. What we want to do is give them the tools and resources that they need to be safe if the worst case scenario did occur. And with 9 critical incidents on average in each school district across the state, this is an issue that's glaring. And we could be a visionary leader in this space, not only for the state, but nationwide. Others can look to Minnesota and say, yeah, they're addressing everything, whether it's mental health or the physical security side of things. So I really appreciate your comments, and look forward to working with you all on this.
Thank you, Representative Engen. The chair renews the motion that House File 15 as amended be re-referred to the Committee on Public Safety, Finance, and Policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion prevails, and House File 15 as amended is re-referred to the Committee on Public Safety, Finance, and Policy. All right. So members, we will now proceed to our last bill on the agenda, House File 22 by Representative Gilman. And we'll let some transferring happen here. Representative Gilman, welcome to the committee. All right, so The chair moves that House File 22 be re-referred